So, what does it take to delay the start of the Virginia General Assembly? How about a complete shutdown of the municipal water system in Richmond? Yes, I'm David Smith with Inthrive Advocacy, and for the first time in the history of the Virginia General Assembly, it gavelled in to start the session, then immediately gavelled out until Richmond could get the water flowing again. Yep, the Civil War didn't stop us, but a brief power outage taking out the late 90s tech running the water treatment plant sure did. Welcome to my first of several updates about the Virginia General Assembly. Compliments of Inthrive Advocacy Solutions and me, David Smith. So what's been going on? While the water was out, there was still action happening, just not inside the Capitol building. There was a rally out of the state capitol organized by Phil Willeto and the Virginia Defenders, with Delegate Jones and Seawald calling out the Virginia Department of Corrections for their treatment of folks at Red Onion. How did VDOC respond? Well, they didn't respond by addressing the issues, but by calling out the attendees, including those two delegates that serve on the House Public Safety Committee, extremist advocacy groups, and prison abolitionists. We'll see how well that actually sits with folks. This week, the action got started with a bunch of party line votes and some seemingly pretty absurd to common sense folks votes as well. And a little bit of surprise with a delegate taking some more nuanced stances than we've seen in the past. We'll start in the Senate Rehabilitation and Social Services Committee. There we had Senator Bagby bringing back SB 1409, that perennial bill to limit solitary confinement to no more than 2 weeks. Interfaith Action for Human Rights and the Virginia Coalition of Solitary Confinement, along with SALT, and a bunch of other organizations have been behind this bill for years. And it looks like this will be like it usually is, right along party line votes. Again, it's been this way for the last 3 years since we had that breakthrough for a compromise bill, which unfortunately, because of DOC, has not really made any difference. Hopping over to the House, we have HB 1894. That's a bill to ensure that incarcerated individuals don't die of heat stroke or freeze to death. Yes, this has happened in Virginia recently. Amazingly enough, DOC fought this bill to provide space heaters and fans in cells. DOC pushed back, so a compromise came out that required DOC to provide blankets and clothing when it's cold and a small fan when it's hot. Not a really big ass kind of common sense stuff, right? Despite all these already existing in prison, and despite folks that are incarcerated, they're being allowed to have clothing and fans in their cells already, it passed on a party line vote. Yes, Delegates Batten from the Williamsburg area and Delegate Wilt from the Harrisonburg area both voted against giving men and women extra clothes to wear in the cold and against providing them a small fan in the sweltering heat of Virginia's summers when they don't have access to air conditioning. All right, over to the House Courts of Justice. There, Delegate Jones brought two bills to tackle the problem of fines and fees, HB 1661 and 1665. 1665 requires an itemized statement and is passed with bipartisan support. Even though her fellow Republican Delegate Cherry has signed on as a co-patron, only Delegate Batten refuses to vote for it as it heads to the House floor. She's voted against it twice now, in sub and in full committee. But wait, look at this. Did Delegate Cardoza trick her into thinking he would vote no as well? You see what has happened there, didn't you? Voted no and then switched it to yes. I don't know. All right, now on to HB 1661. That says a maximum minimum payment. Did you get that? A maximum minimum payment for folks with household incomes of less than 50% of Virginia's median income. The interesting thing here is that Delegate A.C. Cardoza, now he's from down in the Hampton-Poquoson area. He's got a lot of wealthy white neighborhoods in Poquoson and Hampton, but he does have a significant amount of areas in Hampton that are his constituents that are impacted by high rates of policing and incarceration. So he's joining with Democrats to advance this bill. It will be interesting to see if he continues to break with his caucus to support this common sense reform that will help his constituents. Finally, while Virginia's big lobby day is Monday on Martin Luther King Day, that's the one day I try to avoid the General Assembly if I can, we had a bunch of lobby days this last week too. VICPP's Day for All People continues to grow and is now filling the halls and hosts churches to capacity. The Humanization Project, Justice Forward, and several other coalitions all brought folks together to give faces and stories to the words in these bills. We'll be back with another Virginia Justice Update. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week or around the halls of the GAB.